Welcome back to the Gruber Morning Show.
Lucid joins the NACS standard.
BMW challenges Tesla's EV battery supremacy.
Starlink is going to be profitable. There's IPO talk and even talk of Starlink and SpaceX being larger than Tesla Motors.
What's this about batteries going back to sulfur?
Easy.
I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner.
These and other stories on the Tesla Morning Podcast.
Gruber Morning Show.
Gruber Morning Show. Good morning and welcome.
I just realized that my text on here. Remember, I read anything that's written. They call me Ron Burgundy here, folks. But it looks like we've got a YouTube comment already from Sammy Kamal. He says, let's go, Lucid, family, woo-hoo, and a lot of emojis there. Keep adding on to your Lucid positions. Everyone stay focused and discipline hard. Work, dedication together as one Lucid family. Goonies never die. So, Mark, what's going on with Lucid? You've got some more information today.
Well, a couple of things that are popping in the news. Lucid announced finally that they're going to adopt the NACS standard. I think they were one of only 3 holdouts at this point of the automakers. And I think I was speculating when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago that now that Tesla's version 4 or generation 4 charger is officially listed as 800 volts, it's only a matter of time before Lucid says they'll join. Also, Lucid and Rivian are both posting earnings tonight.
Okay.
So that will be interesting coming up with the news. There's a lot of chatter. Is Lucid going to finally formally announce the Gravity SUV? Did their earnings beat or fall short of Wall Street expectations, which the Wall Street expectation is that they're going to lose about 35 cents a share. There'll be a lot of stuff going on with Lucid. I'm sure that we'll probably put some postings out there on the Gruber Morning Show Facebook site when we get the news.
What is the guidance regarding Rivian?
The guidance regarding Rivian has been that they're still going to be losing money. I don't have the exact Wall Street guidance on that particular one, but they're widely expected to beat analyst guidance because their deliveries came in higher than expected.
Interesting. Okay, so it's a momentous occasion today.
Pete, real quick, you want to talk about the image behind you?
Yeah, image behind us. All right. We were going to use the traditional AI-generated newsroom image, which is usually pretty colorful and very technical. But I tried something different this time. I had both, actually. I asked for a futuristic Tesla vehicle in Sedona, Arizona, and this is what it came up with. It's a little bit darker than I would prefer, but you definitely have some beautiful lines in that car.
That's a beautiful car, and that might be something that could approximate Cathedral Rock in the background too.
Really?
Really, really like that view in that picture, though.
Yeah, what I find is that AI should be aware of these landmarks, like Cathedral Rock. I mean, if it's scouring the internet looking for images that are tagged with that, it should be an easy find. I mean, you and I can do it easily just going to Google, but for some reason, AI just doesn't differentiate that well. Yeah.
We got to work on your guys' prompt engineering. So at the end of your prompt, when you say, give me a roadster in Sedona with Cathedral Rock in the background or in the foreground, we got to do a little deeper prompt engineering. AI you have to be very specific with it, I think.
Very explicit, yes.
That reminds me of several years ago, worked for a human resource information system company or a payroll processing company. And we struggled at times culturally with working with our team from India.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great people. Enjoyed working with them a lot. But the way that they interpreted our instructions, you would never have thought of how they could misinterpret something the way that they did.
Really? Yeah.
And AI is not that different. You have to be so explicit and so careful with what you talk to them about.
I know exactly what you're talking about because oftentimes when we're eating supper, I'll get a call from the guys in India, and I find that same issue. When I ask them questions, the answers aren't always predictable.
Yeah.
Yep. The interpretation and, of course, the accent and all of that. So one of the other things I wanted to share with you guys is on our website, and I was going to bring a picture with me, and I'm sorry I didn't, Jesse, but if you can bring up our website and go to the video section on the Gruber Motor website, we have a number of, oh, there you go. We have tutorials out here. And we're forgetting how many we have out here, actually.
Yeah.
If you click on the video tab.
This is the videos tab. I'm showing the
Okay.
videos.
And then how-tos or tutorials. How-tos. There we go. Yeah. Okay. We get asked these questions in these podcasts all the time. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you take out an MCU? How do you remove a Tesla Roadster PEM? How do you resurface the headlights on your Tesla Roadster? And there are a number of them out here. What we're going to work on this week is getting the thumbnails consistent so that there's always an explanation for what the video is. The other thing that we need to do, I found, is we only had Tesla Model S and and Model 3. We're going to do slight variations in the thumbnails so you can quickly determine which car it is that you're interested in. So if you have a Model 3, you know exactly what colors to go to.
Sure.
But I did want to point that out because I was surprised at how much content is already there that we're not promoting.
Yeah, we've been building on the website for, goodness, years. And I still remember you were on vacation, in fact. And I was here with Victor. We were on the Roadster podcast, and he had brought a little IGBT capacitor and said, look, these are the little guys that blow out on the PEMs. I'm like, that's interesting. Let me go try to look up something on that.
Right.
The next thing I know, I'm looking at a Gruber Motors 2017 article on what happens to the PEMs and what happens when you lose your IGBT or when those capacitors blow or whatever happens. And that was all on our website. It was all well documented. And I suddenly, instead of having to do some sort of research, I just went back to our website and reiterated what we've already told people.
Yeah, and the reason is we have just shy of 1,000 out there on the Gruber Motor website. That's why we're or the Gruber Motors YouTube channel, I should say.
Yeah.
And but anyway, this is an IGBT transistor. That's what Mark was just referring to. We keep a few of these props here.
Hold that up one more time. I did your close up.
Okay, do a close up here.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
There you go.
And what's interesting is in the critical power world, the transistors they use, and it handles basically the same current. 400 amps, 800 amps or so. What Tesla decided to do was use a whole bunch of these on 3 power boards and connect them in parallel. What they do in the critical power world, they use a large form factor IGBT. And I don't have one here behind me. I'll bring one the next time. But they're huge, heavy, and they both do the same job. It's just,
just a different approach.
Just a different approach, exactly.
Oh, we have a few comments coming in already. First, Exploration on YouTube says there's no dust on that car. That's true. If you're in Sedona and you don't have red dust on your car, you're a strange person. Because it seems like there's always dust on the cars, or it's been raining. Zri Ali from Instagram says hi from Iran.
Welcome, yes.
Welcome.
And he's giving us an emoji and a Persian script that says Persian in hello. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate you joining us from the other side of the world. YouTube, Peter L. says, good morning, guys. Nearly missed the live stream, but remembered Arizona doesn't have daylight savings time. Yes.
That's right. I have a clock at home that switches automatically. I woke up early Sunday morning and looked over at the clock, and it said like 3:10 or something like that. And I thought, that's not, I can't hardly believe that. Yeah. That's unreal. I'm not tired like that. So I went and got up and went downstairs, and sure enough, my clock said 10 after 4.
Okay. All right. Very cool. I think my cell phone does it automatically too.
Yeah. So we might not have some of our regulars here because they might not realize that we've switched times. We are now in the Mountain Standard Time Zone, the same as Denver.
Facebook, Musa Kulabali says, super. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
YouTube exploration, we already did the dust on a car, but you know what? He may have had a spray bottle of McGuire's. And, for a photo shoot, usually the photographers come prepared.
That's
They wipe
right.
these things down. But of course, this is AI, so there was no photographer. This is a artificial intelligence rendition based on responding to a prompt.
I love that driver stick. I guess that's a camera instead of a mirror on the back.
Yeah,
Let me
cool.
lean over and
So we have a question from YouTube. 91Kit, K-I-T-T says, question for you guys. With many auto manufacturers switching to the NACS plug, do you see an issue with crowded Tesla supercharger stations that are already busy with just Teslas currently? Well, I would be concerned about that, except for a couple of things. Tesla is continuing to build, and later on in this podcast, we're going to talk about the fact that they've just opened their 2,000th supercharger locations. But the point here being is it's not just Tesla. Now that the whole world realizes this is the adopted standard, any charging manufacturer in their right mind is going to replicate what Tesla has been doing and continue to create NACS charging systems and stations.
well, in fact, the charging manufacturers, I know that Electrify America and ChargePoint have already announced that they're going to retrofit their charging station to take NACS adapters as well.
Very cool.
So I don't think it's going to be any different than it would have been otherwise, because except that you're going to see more mixing. You're going to see Teslas that are on non-Tesla chargers more often, as well as non-Teslas that are on Tesla chargers.
Question from Instagram. Muralid Haran Swarop says, hello from India. Well, thank you for
Hello
joining
and
us.
welcome.
Yes. So one of the news items was, and this is the headline, BMW sees itself leading Tesla on batteries. Quote, unquote, Tesla needs to close the gap with us. So the bold statement is that BMW is confident that their new battery design holds the key for the upcoming generation of all electric vehicles. Now remember, the Germans are engineering savvy. And I would expect nothing less from the Germans than to take a look at a product that is successful and improve on it.
Sure.
And then start to create it. So, but they did say that that it would be companies like Tesla, not BMW, that would have some catching up to do. Very bold statement there. It is the first BMW cylindrical battery which will be powering the next generation EVs, they feel, starting in 2025. They expect that this battery that they have designed will provide 20% more energy and up to 30% more range. The batteries are also expected to feature a 50% reduction in battery cost, as well as a 60% lower production-related carbon emission than the current generation prismatic cells. So when they were asked by a magazine called Automotive News in Europe about its strategy to close the gap with rivals like Tesla, the BMW Group production boss, Milan Nedjerkovic, noted that the German automaker would not need to catch up to anyone. He said Tesla needs to close the gap with us. So what's this battery all about? You did a little research on that.
I did do a little bit of research on this, and BMW has partnered with a company in Europe called Eve Energy for the development of its batteries and its next battery technology. These batteries will have a 4695 format, which means they're 46 millimeters wide by 95 millimeters tall.
Compared to the Tesla 4680.
Exactly. So that means they're the same width, same type of cylinder, but they're 15 millimeters or 1.5 centimeters taller than Tesla's batteries. According to Carla Westerheide from Electrive, the Eve Energy batteries are also supposed to have an energy density that's between 260 and 280 watt hours per kilogram of weight, where Tesla's 4680 batteries are coming in between 230 and 245 watt hours per kilogram. So theoretically, a battery pack with the 4695 batteries is going to be roughly the same size as Tesla's battery pack, but will contain as much as 40% more energy in it because of the larger size and the more energy dense batteries. the Tesla's smaller cells, the 18650s,
Mhm.
have roughly the same energy density as the Eve battery.
Interesting.
So that to me says that this is not maybe that much of an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
It may be that Tesla needs to catch up to BMW a little bit. Looks like the BMW has taken the energy density from the 18650, combined it with the size of the 4680, and have produced a battery that they think is going to be both cheaper and last better than Tesla. And so far, the research seems to support that.
You know, as we've predicted all along, with this much demand for a particular technology, there's a lot of innovation taking place, and the product will continue to improve and evolve. And stay with us in the podcast, because later on, we're going to introduce you to a whole new battery concept, which actually has a number of distinct advantages.
Oh, it's breathtaking how quickly things are moving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was. I still feel like there's a really good chance that by the time this BMW battery is actually out in the marketplace in 2025, it'll be obsolete.
Interesting, yes. Frustrating for manufacturers that are tooling up and setting up production lines and
Oh, yeah.
you know, processes, and but that's how it goes when you have a rapidly evolving market. Can you guys throw up a picture? Tesla Diner Supercharger -2. This one's back in the news, and if you remember, we had reported on this a couple of months ago or so. There we go. This is a Tesla concept for a drive-in supercharger, hearkening back to the old days of diners. And here's the story. Tesla initially submitted plans for this drive-in charging station concept last year, 2022, and received some permit approvals to begin construction in August of 2023. In 2021, Tesla was also approved to trademark for the U.S. Patent and Trademark Offices to expand coverage of its T logo to include restaurant services. I didn't know you had to actually apply for different applications
Didn't either.
for your logos. But so anyway, Elon had discussed the idea of building a 1950s style diner and drive-in theater supercharger in Los Angeles since 2018. And he initially said it would feature roller skates and a rock restaurant. The plans were later confirmed by the city of Santa Monica, though the site has since moved to West Hollywood location.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what he said in 2018, and this is a tweet, he said, "We're going to put an old school drive-in, roller skates, and rock restaurant at one of the new Tesla supercharging locations in Los Angeles." So this news comes just weeks after Tesla surpassed 2,000 active supercharger stations in the United States, and ahead of plans for most automakers to gain access to the network in the years to come.
You know, I do remember us talking about this. What is it, 3 or 4 months ago? I mean, Milliways. That's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Volume 2. That is the restaurant at the end of time,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's all kinds of fun references in this photo. It's all about the charging time issue, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people or companies or the press, they talk about the charging time issue, and there are several ways that people are trying to attack this issue. Either they're trying to make batteries that charge faster. We were just talking, we're going to talk further about batteries and have talked already about batteries and that charge fast. Another way to address the charging issue is the batteries can be smaller. It takes less time to charge a smaller battery. Companies make smaller cars. They make city cars with a smaller battery that simply is a more efficient car, and it doesn't take as long to charge. A third way is like this, though.
Mm-hmm.
You just give something for people to do.
Entertain them. Yes.
Entertain them. Give them a restaurant. Give them a little drive-in or something like that. And then they don't mind the time for charging. It becomes its own event and destination almost.
In fact, you give them a slip and slide, and you can't get rid of them because the kids don't want to leave. You know? But if we can pop up another picture, guys, it's the Tesla Diner Supercharger, and that's what currently is under construction. And of course, like anything under construction, it doesn't look anywhere near like the final version. But what's encouraging here is that they got past all of the permit processes. In California, I can only imagine is tough. And it looks like you got the graffiti artists in there already.
Oh yeah,
starting
looks
to
like the
embellish
graffiti
it.
artists have been busy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not an old pizza, not an old pizza place in the picture anymore.
Anymore, that's right. Yeah. When we reported on this a couple of months ago, they showed the old structure.
Yeah, it was like a Shakey's Pizza or something like
Shakey's, that was it. Yeah, yeah.
And so that's all been torn down. They've got the concrete up probably for some of the structure. This is cool. I have to admit, my wife and I love going to Disneyland, and we go to the Los Angeles area every couple of years. And eventually, I do think when this is done, this will be a place I want to go visit.
You know, we've come such a long way, too. I mean, going back into the last century, and I don't care if I'm dating myself because that's what I am. I'm 72 years old. But
yeah.
It used to be that when you drove up to a gas station, and you guys would probably chuckle at this, an attendant would come out. Sometimes they even had a bow tie and a white shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And they would check your oil. They would clean your windshield. They would pump for you, of course. And you didn't even tip back then. It was just expected, right? But there was nothing to do at the gas station. And if they did have facilities, they were probably dirty and not worth going to. And all of that changed when the QT concept came along. They realized that, people don't just come to pump gas, but maybe they want a Slurpee, maybe they want a hot dog, maybe they want some groceries, some chips. They're traveling, they're going to, So they were able to generate additional revenue, and they turned these into profit centers. Not that they weren't making money on gas previously, but it's pretty competitive.
I still remember hearing about the gas station owners that were so full of trepidation because of the change. They're like, I don't know about this. People paying at the pump, and they'll never walk in, and and it was all a scary thing. And every change, that of course, I found out they could make more money.
Well, their source of income back then too was they did service work. So it wasn't uncommon. You had the pumps, and then you had a bunch of lifts, and you had mechanics working on cars.
Yes.
Yeah,
totally different.
We have a bunch of things to go through here. Instagram, Zri Ali is with us again. He says, I love DC to DC converter and switching power supplies. That is a cool technology. I agree with you. We use them at Gruber Motor Company pretty broadly, especially in the battery bunker. And you would think that it would be highly inefficient to convert DC to DC, but that's how you change voltages in the DC world, because AC is pretty simple. You get a transformer.
Right.
In the DC world, you have to do a conversion.
And then Martin Woods is joining us from the UK. Martin says, Lucid adopting the NACS standard is great news for Lucid customers, for Lucid sales, and for Lucid investors.
These days, we were talking about this earlier, these days you have to talk about the holdouts because there's such a small number. And the two holdouts so far currently, according to Jesse, are Stellantis and Volvo. Is there anybody else that you guys can think of? If so, let us know.
Actually, Volvo is not a holdout. They would, with Polestar, said that they were going to the NACS standard.
Oh, so there's only Stellantis at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
I think Porsche's in there too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Porsche's moved over to the NACS.
Yeah. Yeah. If those of you have expertise, let us know. YouTube, Martin Woods. Hi from UK. We just read that.
Just read that one.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, by the way, Martin.
Instagram, DJ Vip 510. Real art, he says.
Oh,
love it, referring to the graffiti. So that's the graffiti on the picture that we showed. Do you hear that they put a V3 in Big Bear?
No, I did not hear that.
Did not know that. Although we did report not long ago that Tesla was among the many that were putting superchargers and charging stations at national parks and recreation places all throughout the U.S. It's been happening for a little while, and it was just now starting to get some press.
Isn't it amazing that in our world, in the EV world, of course, what makes the news is where the new charging stations are.
Yeah.
All right, YouTube, Lars Kite, please explain the sunglasses for me. Okay, I'll give you an explanation. We have very good reasons why there are always sunglasses involved in any Gruber productions. from videos to tours to any of that. And we do plan on releasing a video that will give full disclosure. And I think you'll all find it humorous, entertaining, and educational. But for now, we're still riding the mystique. It's part of our signature. It's kind of like the Blues Brothers. Do you remember that movie? Those guys wore glasses, or certain rock stars. And we consider ourselves rock stars. We also have been accused that possibly we are AI, and we're trying to hide our eyes because they're not yet perfected and will not pass the Turing test. So there are a number of speculations, and we continue to keep those alive.
Well, I know. And I mean, last week I had a ton of fun last week because it was nothing but the glasses last week.
For those of you that missed it, Mark donned a green suit, or a green sheet, actually, cut a couple holes in it for his eyes, put the sunglasses on, and he was completely invisible except for a pair of floating sunglasses right next to me here. And of course, it was Halloween, so it was an appropriate time to do something.
It was
like
a lot
that.
of fun. It turned out really well.
YouTube, Peter L. says, Canoo had an interesting tweet the other day. Looked like their pickup truck is going through a puddle with a date 11/10/23. Have you heard any rumors?
I have to admit, I have not heard any special rumors, but maybe Richard's our person to ask on this one.
He is our Canoo investor, is he not?
That's right. So I looked at a little bit of research, and it looks like they may be revealing a 4-door pickup truck. So we will see. I noticed the cab looks extended. So that's all I've got, though. And we'll see.
Very cool. YouTube,
Definitely.
Martin Woods from UK said Lucid earnings today. Yes, we talked about that briefly, and we're anxiously awaiting the outcome of that.
Yeah, Lucid's earnings, of course, are going to be after the market close today, along with Rivian. And anxiously looking forward to both of those.
YouTube, Lars Kite says, the reflection of the monitors are really not a plus for y'all. Like your content, but hate your glasses.
The reflection that you're seeing on the glasses is not so much monitors as it is the studio lights themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Because I can close my monitor here on my computer, and you'll see me better, but you didn't see anything change on the glasses.
He does say later, he thanks you for explaining and states that he will live with the glasses.
We appreciate
you.
that. Yeah, and it'll be entertaining once we do the reveal.
Plus, if you purchase one of our sunglass holders, you may or may not get an explanation with that. I can't say for sure.
There we go.
$79.99, except after a 10% off using code Richard or Aaron, drops it down 10%.
Yeah, bear with us, folks. We're still learning how to do product placement and how to do advertising. It's we're not experts yet. YouTube, Richard Flenke joined us. Welcome back. He says, as of November 2023, Mazda, Stellantis, and the Volkswagen Group are the only automakers who have not announced that they will adopt NACS.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank
I
you,
really
guys.
appreciate that. Glad that you joined us today.
Yeah. So here's another news item. Starlink is now breaking even with cash flow, according to Elon Musk. And he said an IPO is becoming more attractive. I can't wait. Between SpaceX and Starlink, I think those are going to be legendary IPOs.
I think they are too.
I mean, if VinFast can do what it did, can you imagine these real companies doing something like this?
Oh my gosh, yes. And in all respect of VinFast, we certainly hope that VinFast is able to be successful and have a good rollout. I know that they've had some build quality issues on some of their cars, but unlike a lot of the other EV startups, they are actually selling some cars.
Yes. In all fairness, we have a TikTok comment from Kieran Markham. Thanks for joining us. What is NACS? NACS stands for North American Charging Standard. And what it is the Tesla Trident plug, as we call it, before NACS. It's a 3-pin plug that was the next generation after the Tesla Roadster gigantic proprietary plug, which I'm grateful went away.
Yes.
But this Trident plug has been tried and tested since 2012 when they came out with the Model S, and it is a highly successful charging method. We have one at home. It sits outside. It actually hangs outside. And, in Phoenix, Arizona, we get dust storms and, it's not the cleanest, exterior. And that plug just continues to work. Sometimes my wife even drops it in the dirt, kind of shakes it off, plugs it in the car, and it continues to operate. And, me being an electronics guy, familiar with connectors all my life, I am amazed how this thing functions and continues to survive.
Yeah, they're really rugged. And, the very brief backstory on this is that Tesla, Elon Musk and Tesla went to the Society of Automotive Engineers back in 2010 when they were trying to build the Model S for the first time. They said, we're going to change from our Roadster plug. We need to have a plug that we want to have as more of a standard for the automotive industry. SAE, what can you do to help us here to get something set up as a standard? And their response was basically, look, we're working on some things, but it's going to be probably 3 or 4 years before we ever have any kind of standard out there. And so Elon Musk said, 3 or 4 years is too long. We won't be here if we have to wait for 3 or 4 years. So we're going to go ahead and go do our own thing. They developed the Trident plug, got it out, and had it going for, I think it was close to 3 years. I think it was 2015 when the combined charging system, or CCS system, was first introduced, and that's where the J1772 plugs are.
Much, a very successful standard, and we're just pleased as can be because in any world, standardization improves everything. The costs come down because instead of building dozens of different type of charge standards, and of course, what we're now realizing is that Tesla's first foray into charging systems or creating chargers out there had much more to do with the fact that they felt they couldn't sell cars unless there was a place to get a charge. This goes back to the T0 days. The T0 actually had a trailer hitch on the back of it. It's the first electric sports car.
Right.
They built 3 of them. And in order to make sure that somebody wouldn't, run out of power, they actually had a trailer hitch with a Honda generator on the back that generated DC current when you ran out of battery. And it would charge your batteries to allow you to, continue to drive. We've come a long way since then. But we all suspected that Tesla would not only benefit from being able to sell their cars by having chargers out there, but eventually the rest of the world would come along and also be interested in using their charging methods, which is exactly what ended up happening. And now you can monetize. You have another revenue generator.
Yeah, people thought for a long time, the short-sighted people that were bashing on Tesla said, right, the company's not making money now, and so what are they going to do? They're going to give away all this value to their people. How ridiculous. Well, Tesla took that ridiculousness all the way to the bank.
Yeah. YouTube, Richard Flenke says, you're Tom Cruise and Goose. All right.
Thank you, Richard. Karen McCrome on TikTok says, thanks for the clarification. Tesla has made huge strides with their charging network. Boy, isn't that the truth.
YouTube Highlander's joining us. He says, hello, gang. Thank you for joining us again. Instagram, Zri Ali says, can you offer me a job to come to America? I have been registering for the lottery for many years, but do not win. And he's got some emojis there.
Yeah, and it's, in legal immigration to America is very difficult.
Yeah.
There's millions of people that want to come. It's a land, truly is a land of opportunity.
My advice to anyone that wants to get into the EV space, begin applying for the EV OEMs or the manufacturers or their service centers. And even if you have to start as a janitor at the bottom of the rung, it would be worth it because if you have a work ethic and you can show up for work every day on time and give them more than they're expecting, your promotion will come rapidly because there is a serious shortage of people that are eligible to work on electric vehicles.
Yeah.
And OJT, on-the-job training, is a extraordinarily valuable education, especially when you have a shortage of learning institutions that are able to teach these subjects.
Yes, definitely. And I think that shortage is only going to get worse over the years because the rate at which electric vehicles are being adopted is so much faster and so much higher than the rate at which people are being educated to work on those electric vehicles.
You know, Highlander is saying from YouTube, I post kindness is still free on YouTube, and now they're starting to block me. I'm confused.
Boy, that is kind of confusing. You know, we'll say it all. We'll say it here too. Kindness is always free. But I don't know. Maybe YouTube is blocking them for the word free.
You know, YouTube is doing some strange things lately. We posted a video last week, and they were confused or concerned about the fact that it had election results from Argentina in it. And the problem is you can't get a hold of anybody at YouTube. Are you listening, YouTube? We would love to discuss this with you and clarify that none of this is true, but we're not able to reach you. So, and it's not just us.
Yeah. Richard Flenke on YouTube. If you work on EVs, he says, don't forget polarity matters.
Yeah, that plus and minus makes a huge difference.
Oh, yes. You know, I could see somebody, in theory, plugging a battery in backwards, hitting that accelerator, and boom, that motor takes off, and they're going backwards.
Yeah, there's a bunch of circuitry in between that and a drive motor, though, that would complain about that, though. So I think we're going to be okay.
I think so.
So continuing with the Starlink issue for a moment, that they've received break-even cash flow, which means that they're no longer operating at a loss. And we can expect some profitability, perhaps, unless they go on a spending spree and get a whole lot more satellites out there. But I think that once a company reaches that parity, they carefully preserve that status.
Sure. Yeah.
But Starlink is now also a majority of all active satellites. And, you know, I guess there are a number of them out there. And Elon must have sent so many up there. They are becoming the majority. And they have, it says they will have launched a majority of all satellites cumulatively from Earth by next year.
Those are some amazing statistics. You know, I think about for us old timers, and if you remember the time when global positioning systems were brand new, or even before that time, that's easily in our lifetime. I'm not sure I could say the same for Cass and Jesse and Richard and Aaron over here. But I remember a time when global positioning systems were either non-existent, or you had this big thing that looked like a big handheld radio, and it would try to get links to satellites, and it would eventually get you positioned.
And it costs a fortune.
Oh yeah, they were like $1,000 just for that thing. Today we take GPS for granted. It's in seemingly everything we work on. Every time your phone says use location services, it's using GPS. Every time your car uses a map to get somewhere, you wouldn't have live maps if you didn't have GPS. I think that's what's going to happen with Starlink. At some point in the future, can you imagine what it would be like if all the cell towers are being taken down throughout not only the United States, but the world? Because why do you need a cell tower? You just have a satellite that's above you that gets your communication needs taken care of.
You know, they go on in this article, they talk about the quantity of satellites out there. They said it was a huge step for Starlink, this, you know, going profitable. And as SpaceX has dealt with many challenges in its development. But this year, SpaceX has officially passed the 5,000 satellite threshold, and they've been signing up various partnerships with a company called Maersk, being one of the largest. Now, that's the ocean shipping company, I believe, transport. So they say that now that things are more predictable, a potential IPO could be on the way for Starlink, and as Elon once discussed, spinning off Starlink and taking it public. So it sounds like Starlink would go public first, spin off from SpaceX. And he said that he told employees he told employees last year that the business was not likely to go public until the year 2025. So for those of you interested in investing, you got a couple of years to wait. He said that SpaceX, on the other hand, is also going to go public in the coming years. including some investors that were weighing in on this. Ron Barron, who said in an interview earlier this week that he expects the stock to be public within 3 years. He said that Barron, that he believes that SpaceX stock could be bigger than Tesla.
I think there's a chance. Again, with what Starlink has the potential to do to revolutionize our world, we're already seeing some of that with the wars that are happening in Europe and Ukraine and in the Middle East.
Sure. When you destroy the terrestrial infrastructure, what do you have left to communicate? You have to look up at the sky.
Yeah, and the fact that most anybody can get a Starlink subscription, as it were, and be able to do that communication, it's going to be revolutionary. It's going to be a real change.
And I come from the radio frequency world, and it's all about line of sight as you get higher in the frequencies. If you have obstructions, on the planet, those impede the ability to transmit data or any kind of information. But if it's line of sight and you can see it, there are no impediments to that. So it's a highly efficient way of bidirectional communication.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. A few more comments that we have. Martin Woods on YouTube says there are more EV chargers in the UK than there are fuel stations. What's that like in the USA? Says you can't drive anywhere in the UK without seeing Teslas.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we're at that tipping point here yet, but still a lot of gas stations, in other words, and of course the ICE conversion is still well underway. I don't remember the statistic, but the EV adoption in the U.S., isn't it under 10% at this point?
Yeah, EV adoption in the U.S. is only at about 8%, where in Europe it's somewhere close between 14 and 16%. And in Asia, especially over in China, it's above 20%. It's close to 25%. Now, that Norway has the best adoption in the world. Yeah. They're up above 80% on their EV adoption. Here in the U.S., we have about 175,000 gas stations. We only, last time I checked, which was about 6 months ago, we were about 60,000 EV plugs at about 6,000 or so EV charging sites.
Mark, you have a gift. The way that you can remember these statistics it's unprecedented. Aren't you guys amazed when he does this?
So, well, that's why I'm a chief financial officer, because it's the numbers.
You're in the right job.
I'm in the right job. But I know that the EV charging station growth is, oh goodness, it's between 50 and 100% a year, the way that it's growing out. And the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States that the Congress passed at the beginning of 2023 has said that ideally by 2030 there'll be 500,000 EV charging plugs at around 100,000 EV charging stations.
Amazing. Instagram. Akbar Zamani 666 says hello, welcome, join. Yeah, thanks for joining us. YouTube. George Borelli says, this is likely an old question. Will Tesla ever come out with a new Roadster? Any update? Yes, it's they even have pictures of it. There's some working models of it, for example. There are teams working on it. George von Holzhausen's team, the design team. It's just that they're preoccupied currently with some other things, the semi-launch, and now the Cybertruck launch. They're not going to, they're going to have a hard time fulfilling the 2 million people that have put pre-orders in based on the production projections that we have just for the next year. So I don't expect a niche vehicle like this to be front and center, to be the high priority at this point in time.
I don't think so. At the same time, I do remember us talking about how Elon has said he wasn't going to put a timeline on it, but he does have a team working on the development of the next Roadster.
YouTube Highlander says GPS and its accuracy were guarded by the military. Well, go figure.
Yeah.
Because, well, that's how we land our bombs. I know, I was there.
Highlander, you are absolutely correct. That's... I learned about GPS first from my brother-in-law, who was a Black Hawk and Chinook pilot in the Army.
And that's my big fear about AI. As wonderful as AI is and how it can revolutionize mankind, our governments are going to be focused on weaponizing it.
Yeah.
YouTube, George Borelli says, my 22 Model 3 Performance, love it, but I modified my seats. My hips and thighs are just enough wider than the seats were designed for. I modified my own custom seats, input on seats, seat options. You know, there's a good aftermarket opportunity, George. I suppose there would be other people that would be interested in that sort of thing.
I think that's a great idea. You know, I'm a larger person myself. The seats in my Model S are a little bit tight for me. I've gotten used to them. But if I had the chance to have a slightly modified seat that was a little bit wider, I think I would have definitely considered that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should probably talk about Jim Cramer a little bit. Jim Cramer was in the news, got himself a CNBC interview, and he was bashing a bit regarding the Cybertruck and the ability for Tesla to actually meet some of their projections. And quoted as saying on CNBC, I wonder whether this man, he's talking about Elon, of course, this man can sell even 50,000 of the 200,000 Cybertrucks that were promised, I guess 200,000 per year. You had some distinct opinions about Jim Cramer, and I'd love to hear them again.
Oh yes, I almost ranting. You know, as we research this podcast, we come across a lot of old information and or misinformation, and we have to filter it out because a lot of times it gets repackaged and it gets put out again as though it were new news. And I've been surprised as we've gone through this podcast now for over a year together that how much stuff gets put out brand new that is actually 6 months or 9 months or 12 months old. Well, Jim's take is one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
He's at best was relying on false information and misstatements that in many cases have been debunked months ago about the Cybertruck. And in fact, it was just so easy to find factual information. He says the Cybertruck's $100,000. No, Tesla hasn't announced what the price is going to be. The last time they had a price on it, it was either $49,990 or $69,990. And you know, he talks about the Cybertruck only hauling 1,500 pounds in its payload. No, Tesla's never said that. They've always said that the Cybertruck is going to be more like an F-250 heavy-duty type of truck with a 3,500 pound payload and 14,000 pound towing capacity. So basically, I think that his rant may have enhanced his value as an entertainer, but with those kinds of things, he's not a newsman.
All right. Actually, the headline here is Jim Cramer tries to give Tesla Cybertruck synopsis and gets it all wrong.
Yeah, it's just hard to take Jim Cramer seriously when he does that kind of stuff.
And let's just hope he doesn't give AI a bad name and come out later and claim that he was using AI for his stats.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we're getting pretty close to our time, Pete.
We are. You know, and we should probably touch on this. Here's a headline. An accidental discovery could change the world. This is regarding battery technology in the EV world. And let me read you a portion of this. They say, every now and then, revolutionary technology seems to spontaneously appear out of thin air and change our world. Dynamite, penicillin, X-ray machines, and even microwave ovens are all examples of such revolutionary accidental discoveries. Well, they say, this year we may have had yet another. However, this time it is set not only to revolutionize the way we live, but potentially save our planet from the looming climate change by unlocking an elusive technology, lithium sulfur batteries. And what they're saying about this is that this battery tech has some serious upsides compared to lithium ion. Since the early 90s, we've been using lithium ion batteries. It powers everything from iPhones or cell phones, to Teslas, to the energy grid backup facilities, and even satellites. But despite the fact they have brought us into the 21st century, they have some severe downsides. or the technology does. There's a density problem. They say lithium ion packs are relatively energy dense, but they're still quite heavy, large, bulky. And the limits on electric cars are range because the batteries are so heavy. And it makes the batteries unfeasible for some applications like commercial electric planes and ships. There's even a fire problem, which everybody well knows with lithium-ion batteries, because a damaged cell can spontaneously catch on fire and burn intensely. Love that adjective. Just look at what happened with some of these Samsung old phones, or the Rimac EV that Richard Hammond crashed.
That's right.
So this is why scientists at Drexel University were looking into a brand new type of battery known as lithium sulfur. And one of our opening statements was, sulfur getting used again in batteries? Remember, the traditional batteries, sulfuric acid is a large component of that, along with lead.
Absolutely. Sulfuric acid, in fact, is the electrolyte that makes regular batteries work. This is an amazing discovery because what the people at Drexel were looking at was that they've got a battery that has potentially 10 times the energy density of lithium ion. It doesn't catch fire. It's not prone to catching fire, but it tended to run down quickly. In fewer than 1,000 charges, these lithium sulfur batteries would be completely dead. And that's because the chemical reaction of the sulfur. So the scientists knew that there might be a way to get sulfur to not chemically react in the way that it was, which was killing the battery. And they stumbled across a method that effectively stops the chemical reaction that even occurs in current lithium-ion batteries that causes battery degradation over time.
You know, they said that they were so shocked by this revelation, they had to check it 100 times to ensure that they weren't misreading it.
Right. Well, it got all of the benefits that we talked about, and now they've got at least twice the charge. They put a battery through 4,000 charge cycles and still didn't see any noticeable degradation. Absolutely amazing.
One of the chemical phases they put it through, and I wanted to pronounce this, monoclinic gamma phase sulfur. Pretty cool name.
Yeah,
Hey guys,
it
we
definitely
got 3
is.
minutes.
We got 3 minutes to go. All right. So we are going to our next phase in the podcast here, which is going to be the Tesla Roadster podcast. And in order to make that migration into the next podcast, we have to reset our streaming services. So that's why we need to close this here in a few minutes. It might be good to just simply grab a few of the last comments here. Instagram, the Gepard203 says AI should always have a manual override.
Yes.
YouTube, Serdar Uzamez says, hello, any chance Tesla Vision will support Summon or Smart Summon in Model Y and Model 3? Don't know that, but that would be handy.
It's coming. Yeah, I looked it up. It's on its way.
It's on
It's
its
on
way.
its way. Okay. Lido, Idaho, and YouTube is joining us back again. He says, hello, guys. I'm having lunch in Virginia. Good morning. A Highlander says, Jim Cramer, lots of laughs.
And then Lido, Idaho adds, Cybertruck is too expensive. Is it really $100,000 now? No, that was the take by this pundit that had what appears to be inaccurate information. As was pointed out, Tesla has not yet announced any price changes, but we don't think it's going to be $49,000.
Niels from the Bion Danish Genome Institute is joining us too. He says, non-Tesla EV charge points are often either busy, very slow, or broke. So comparing the number isn't just like that.
And he's talking about Denmark, by the way. You know, the uptime in the U.S. is pretty impressive, actually.
Overall, yes. For Tesla, 99.95%. For non-Tesla, about 80%. So there is still some room for improvement for non-Tesla.
Trucker Alistair is joining us from YouTube. Welcome back. He says, greetings, GM and others behind the scenes. Wow, Lucid gets Tesla's charging plug. Nice.
All right,
Nice.
guys, 45 seconds. Do a lightning round. Everybody will see you on the next stream if you want to stick around.
Yep, you will see us on the next stream. Stick around in
In fact,
3
why
to
don't
5 minutes.
Why don't we start our next stream with answering some of these last questions? So we
Great
encourage you
idea.
guys to stick around. And then I guess the best way to say it is take care, and I'll see you in about 5 minutes.
Thank you.